This is the first time. Hi, I'm Ben from BC Hydro. I've been asked by the Greater Langley Chamber of Commerce to come talk to you a little bit today and give you some inside information on how BC Hydro's incentive program works, why it works, how it makes sense for anybody, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what a typical project might look like and how you can get money from BC Hydro and save money yourself. It's a little bit interesting. I've been with Hydro for 12 years now. I worked in energy conservation the whole time on commercial, working with commercial customers. I've done, I would say, thousands of these projects, but probably 1,000 of these projects. And so when I share my screen like this, the chat function disappears for me. So if you have any questions, just jump right in. You can interrupt me. It's kind of weird doing this virtually. Normally I would do this in person somewhere. When I do it virtually, it always seems like I'm just talking to myself. So please jump in and make this a little more dynamic because it gets kind of boring listening to my own voice for the whole time. We might not need the whole time. We might use the whole time. We'll find out. So the first question I had when I started at BC Hydro was, why Power Smart? Why BC Hydro has these incentive programs and rebates, and we pay people to use less electricity, and it never made sense to me, but it was a good paying job, so I took it anyway. I was just a young whippersnapper, and so someone finally explained it to me one day, and it's that. First of all, we used to say it's the right thing to do, be green, save energy, but that's actually none of the reasons why BC Hydro does this. So it's the cheapest option for electricity. It's cheaper for me to get you to do an energy conservation project and save energy over a number of years than it is for me to generate that electricity and bring it to you and then sell it to you. It's kind of a weird thing. But that's the dollars and cents of it all. The reduced generation requirements, the reduced demand on the system. We kind of can defer out these giant substation upgrades. There's one in particular in the Hope area where the substation is sort of reaching its capacity of electricity electrons that it can move. And so instead of spending $55 million on an upgrade, we are trying to work with the community to just reduce that load a little bit. It's a way cheaper option. It's a better option. And then the stabilized demand growth. So as the electrification of the transportation sector is a great example of that. So electric cars, everyone's getting electric cars, getting chargers put up everywhere. Everyone's got a charger on their house. It's happening. The buses are getting electric, trucks are getting electric, delivery vehicles. That electricity has to come from somewhere, and we're the provider of the electricity. So the idea is instead of having to generate more electricity and increase the size of the wires everywhere, we can go use conservation programs and essentially buy electricity savings off of customers to supply that new electricity demand. So we sell it for definitely more than we pay. It's the supply and demand sort of thing, right? So that's how that works. If that makes any sense to anybody, then hopefully yes. If it doesn't, then it's a difficult concept to grasp. Lighting's changed a lot in the last number of years. Actually, in the last 20 years, we went from the one on the left all the way to the LED bulb on the right. The swirly ones in the middle, that was best option at the time. Definitely wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a thing. LED is the future. It's here to stay. New LED advancements happen all the time. Through the economies of scale, the prices come down. If you haven't switched anything over to an LED product yet, you're way behind. LEDs come in all kinds of things. We're going to mostly talk about lighting today because that's the easiest way to visualize what electricity savings look like. But there's other ways to save electricity as well. And this is project BC Hydro was involved with at BC Place when they did their big renovation. It's all LED lighting and like 100% of the facility now. It's all controllable. It comes in all shapes and sizes, all kinds of things. This was the Lionsgate Bridge. So this was a project we were involved with 10 years ago. And so when the municipality changed out all the lights to LED, I don't know if anyone remembers what the bridge used to look like in the 90s, but like most of the lights didn't work. So they changed them all to LED. They saved 36,000 something dollars a year just in electricity savings, and then it's been maintenance free for 10 years. They've never had to work on the lighting. So they saved, I think they saved like 170 something thousand dollars in maintenance costs every year to not have to climb up there and change light bulbs. It's that simple. So this is a huge scale of this. When BC Hydro's incentive programs we're kind of scaling that down to regular business level, but the math and everything is equitable. It's the same. This is a full LED retail space. I don't know what the future of retail is anymore after this year. Hopefully retail sticks around. I enjoy the retail experience. This was from a conference that I did in Kelowna about for Retail West, BC. And then this is a retail space, 100% LED lighting. So you can have it in light boards, you can have it in accent lighting, you can have it in spotlighting. There's so many different applications for it. And it's amazing. Anyway, gonna talk about something here. When you're choosing lighting for, this is before, okay, I'm gonna give you a background on lighting before I get into the nuts and bolts of the program and the money and how it all works. So when you're choosing lighting, it's very technical, and you think a light bulb's a light bulb, right? You just take one out, put one in, one for one. And there's a lot of things you can choose, especially with LEDs on the market now. So one is color temperature. So depending on your environment, do you want it to be sort of amber and moody, or do you want it to be bright white on the other end of the spectrum? It's measured in kelvins. That's what the numbers down at the bottom say. So 1,000, that's about candlelight. 10,000, I don't think that exists in nature, because the sun on a clear day like today at high noon is about 6,000. So there's a lot you can do, and they have different effects. So this is a great picture. This is great. So the sun, when it's low in the sky, it's filtering through dust particles and things like that. It sort of warms up that color temperature, and then at high noon in the middle there, that's about noon. So that's what we call daylight. You can get light bulbs in different colors. Typically, these would come in I don't know if you can see that, but these guys back in the day used to only come in daylight, and they were really bright. They're pretty harsh. Most fluorescent lighting comes in the daylight function, and that's because, like fluorescent tube lighting, and that's because the tube lights are designed to for office environments and workplaces. That's what their main application is. And the bright, clear white light tricks your brain into being alert and being aware. So it's to sort of make the workers function better. And then so here it is exactly. So this is an LED. It's actually a really cool product. It's like a little strip that gets recessed in, or it can be flush mounted. And they've chosen the bright color temperature to make it a clean office environment feeling, right? It's very bright. It's actually a small office. This is located in Vancouver. It's a small office in Vancouver, but it feels bigger for some reason. And it feels bright. It's to keep people on task, have clear focus, and be alert. That's what that is. And then a restaurant, clearly you don't want that. A restaurant, you want more of a warm feeling. So this is the same lighting levels, right? It's just as bright, but everything's a little different. It's all toned down. It's quite a bit warmer. This is to replicate candlelight ambiance, right? You want people to feel relaxed and comfortable in a restaurant environment. So when you're choosing a lighting product, that's one thing to consider, color temperature. The other one is color rendering index. So the sun is a color rendering index of 1,000. I mean 100. I just looked at that number. It's 100. So that means that light reflects off of objects, and we see the light that reflects off it 100% quality. Not 100% of the light, but 100% of the quality of light comes back to us. Artificial lighting sources can't replicate that. It's not possible yet, but you can get close to that. So especially if you're in the retail business or you're in like grocery store, you want a high color rendering index. You want to replicate the sun as best you can. That has nothing to do with the color temperature also. It has to do with the sun's made up like a rainbow. And then you want to make sure that each little band in that rainbow is equal. Artificial lighting, it's always a little bit off depending on how it's manufactured and the lighting source. And sometimes, so you can get a big red band and then a small blue band, and that's kind of a weird sort of looking light. That's how you end up on the other end. So the color rendering index of 70. And you'll really notice this when it's done wrong. So sometimes you'll go into a discount grocery store and the food looks different. The labels look different. Your skin might look different. And that's typically cheaper, like Amazon style LED products they're cheaper because they're inferior and they sort of run on the poorer color spectrum, whereas a better manufactured product that's filtered out properly will be on the higher, and everything's going to look better, feel better. Just creates it's one of those things you see it with your eyes, but you feel it with your heart first. So, okay, I must have missed the slide, but before I get into the common retrofit example, I'm going to explain one thing, and it's a super important thing, and it can make it either you get money from BC Hydro or you don't. So BC Hydro has programs that are incentives. This is going to be my incentive hand, and they have rebates. This is my rebate hand. So a rebate is like you go to the store and you buy something, and then you submit the receipt and you get $50 back. And there's some signage at the store that says, hey, mail in rebate, $50. And so you buy the thing and then you send it in, like 3 months or something to send your receipt in, and you get the money back. That's a rebate. An incentive is different. So an incentive is where you sort of establish your intent to do something. It's like, I'm going to buy something. And then you talk to the manufacturer, but in this case, you talk to BC Hydro and say, hey, BC Hydro, I'm thinking about changing out some of the lighting in my business. What can you do for me? And we enter into a sort of agreement that says, well, if you do XYZ, we'll give you this much money when you're done. The difference is the intent. So incentive, it's like the money from BC Hydro is incentivizing you to go and do this. The rebate is, hey, I did a thing, can I get any money? If you try and do one of these lighting projects and you just go and do it, and then you come to BC Hydro and say, hey, BC Hydro, I did a thing, can I get any money? We're going to say no. We're going to say no. That's not how the program works. So BC Hydro, Crown Corporation, government is really good at taking money from you. But if you want to get some of that money back, there's an extremely detailed process and lots of checks and balances on how to get that money back. It has to follow a sort of flow. And that's, it's a very rigorous and non-intuitive process, similar to most things having to do with get money back from the government. But it's not impossible, but there are some key factors to it. And we're going to talk about those in a bit. So I'm going to go through an example here. This light on the left, we've all seen it. They hang up in warehouses. They're in high ceiling retail spaces a lot. It's what's called a 400 watt metal halide. So this white box on the top is actually a giant ballast. It's like a transformer. It changes the voltage as it comes from the wires and goes into the bulb. In this sort of reflective shield here, that's actually just a reflector. And there's a gigantic football shaped bulb in there. They're usually quite big and they're weird shape. And They have a giant screw on the bottom. It's called a mogul base. It's much bigger than the regular bottom. That's how you can identify these. The one on the right is an LED unit. It's a completely solid state unit. It has no moving parts. It's not really serviceable, but and it also has this glass sort of thing on it that's mostly for aesthetics. We'll talk about that in a second. So if you have, let's say you have one of these in your business and you want to change it. I'm going to move my thing here so I can read these numbers. There we go. So you have one of these 400 watt metal halide units. You probably have more than one. You probably have, if you have a warehouse, you probably have 9 or 12 or 24 of them. If you have a retail place, you might have 4 or 6 of them. That's kind of the numbers that these run with. And let's pretend, so it uses 400 watts. It actually uses 456 watts, but for simplicity, we're going to say 400 watts. It runs for 4,300 hours. So that's about 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Let's say that's your business hours on average. So it costs you in electricity in 2020, it costs you $206 a year to run that light. That doesn't seem so bad. It's pretty good. Except for you have to change the bulb every 2 to 4 years at a cost of about 75 bucks just for the bulb. So if you can reach that light, which you definitely cannot, you need a special ladder or you need to call somebody in with a machine to get up there. That's an additional cost, but we're gonna ignore that. Just we're gonna give the 400 watt metal halide the benefit of the doubt and say that that's not what it's gonna cost. So we're at 206, and then there's this bulb cost. This is a 150 watt LED unit. It costs about 500 bucks each. It's a little extra for the glass thing, but you don't actually need the glass thing. Uses 150 watts exactly. Sometimes it uses less, but they're labeled as 150 watts. If it runs for the exact same time, it's going to cost you in $2020. It's going to cost you $77 a year to run that one light. So you save already. You're saving $129 a year just off that. Has no maintenance to it. So $500 divided by the savings of $129 equals a 3.9 year payback. So a little less than 4 years. So if you installed that light today, just on energy savings alone, if your business continues to operate in a linear fashion, it'll pay itself off in less than 4 years. After that, your bill is still reduced by $129 a year. So that's money in your pocket. So 4 years seems like a pretty good payback. It seems not terrible. Hopefully, you're still in business in 4 years. Everyone hopes that, right? And sometimes I ask people, do you plan to be in business in 4 years? Everyone's like, of course. So let's say that's happening. So incentives. So this is where the incentives come in. So you say, BC Hydro, I own this light. What are you going to pay me to do anything with it? It's like, no, well, nothing. I'm not going to pay you anything. That's just your light. That's what it costs you. You have it. You own it already. Sure. But then you say, hey, BC Hydro, I have one of these lights, but I want to change it to 150 watt LED. What are you going to do for me? So we'll calculate the savings. And so the old 400 watt metal halide. Whoa. Where was that? There we are. So the old 400 watt metal halide uses 1720 kilowatt hours per year. Kilowatt hour is the unit of measurement that BC Hydro charges you. It's kind of like remember when you used to get charged minutes on your cell phone or on a long distance call? That's like the minutes of electricity. It's how many kilowatts per hour. So, or kilowatt hours. 1720 minus 645. So 645 is the savings. That's how, or that's how much the 150 watt LED is going to use in a year. So we put those together. You end up with 1,075 kilowatt hours is your savings. And we multiply that through a bunch of different factors, do some engineering magic, and we'll come up with $115. That's what that $115 is there. So that would be an incentive of $115 per light in this particular scenario. So now you are paying $500 for the light. You're getting $115 from BC Hydro when it's done. You divide that by the $129 energy savings, and then now it's a 3-year payback. So we just shaved almost a year off of the investment to put up one of these lights. So again, still, why would you do this? Oh, this is my slide that reminds me, because I always forget. But this year, because of all the COVID-y stuff, and it's getting a little close to the wire. But if you have one of these projects and you submit the application to BC Hydro, like you just count your lights and you find a vendor and you just put them all in this computer box in the bchydro.com. We'll add 20% to that. So it's not 20%, it's 20% to the $115. So whatever that becomes another, maybe it's 140 bucks then we'd give you per light, which seems pretty good. It brings it to way less than 3 years per light, which is all right. This is some slides from again, the retail conference I did. This is just different ways that people can do things. But this is what the slide I wanted. This is what I want. So what you need to do to make sure that none of this goes off the rails is you need to seek professional help. So that often costs $0 to talk to an electrical supplier or a contractor that can put you on the right path to getting the money from BC Hydro. Talking with a electrical, like a lighting supplier or a lighting contractor, is actually a requirement of the application process. So you can't do it without a contractor, and you can't do it without a lighting supplier. I'll show you why. So you have to plan the retrofit. That's as easy as looking up and seeing if you have any opportunities. Count your light bulbs, whatever. You gotta talk, and that often includes talking to a lighting supplier or a commercial contractor. You gotta purchase the products from a commercial supplier. Here's something I see people do wrong all the time. So they look up and they're like, yeah, I got some lights, and then they go to Home Depot or Rona or something, and they just buy things off the shelf and they put them in. So the difference is that, first of all, this bulb doesn't qualify for a commercial retrofit because it's a residential product. But if you wanted to put one of those big high bay things up, Home Hardware isn't going to have one. But manufacturers make products like this for the residential market, and they sell them in regular retailers. And then they can make a product that looks identical, sold for the commercial market. It'll actually have a different SKU on it, and it'll be a different price, and it'll be a higher quality. So always, your business, you're not, well, you might be a homeowner too, but anything for your business, go to a commercial supplier. You'll often get a better product at a better price with a double the warranty. So commercial suppliers are the only place to buy your electrical products and your lighting products. The stuff at the hardware stores just isn't up to the sort of requirements that you're going to want or expect in your business. So plan the retrofit. Part of the planning the retrofit is to submit an application to BC Hydro. I can show you how to do that in a second, maybe, if my computer will let me do it. You just put your account number in, you log into this website, and then you can start a project. You oftentimes, and it's not intuitive. It's not. BC Hydro is a terrible organization for digital savvy. We're pretty slow. When I first started, one of those old timer engineers who was retiring, his word of advice to me was, BC Hydro is a big wheel with a lot of spokes, and it turns really slowly. So I guess now I'm one of those spokes, and it moves really slowly. It's not, this should be like an application for lighting retrofit should be on your phone, should be an app or something, but it's not. Submit the application. The application gets approved immediately. Like there's a robot in the internet that just automatically approves your application. There's no, nothing has to get reviewed or anything like that. What it does is it triggers a relationship between the customer, you, and BC Hydro, and says there's intent to do a lighting project now. That is enough to satisfy the auditor that the incentive drove you to do the work, and that's what separates it from a rebate. Purchase and install the products from a commercial supplier, so you got to use a contractor. If there's no wiring involved, you can do it yourself. But if there's wiring and you need a permit, then you got to use a contractor. There's provisions on the application for that. Install the lighting products, and then you receive the incentive. So there's a declaration. Once the work is all done, there's a button in that application. You just log back into it and you just push declare. I declare the work is done, and then the payout usually happens in about 4 to 6 weeks. The vendor, whether it's a contractor or the supplier where the contractor bought the lighting parts, they'll often do the application for you. That is one of the value add that they provide. And if you go to the lighting supplier place, you order all your products, you tell them what they're doing, they'll do the application for you, and actually they get a bonus. Their company gets a bonus from BC Hydro if you do the work and it completes and they followed all the rules and you get an incentive paid. So they don't get paid unless you get paid. So that's in their best interest to make sure that everything works out right. You use the right products, they get installed, the declaration happens, and then you get your check. So they don't get anything until you get something. So utilize that relationship that we've built with these electrical places and these lighting suppliers to make sure that you don't miss anything. It doesn't cost you any money. It's just, you just have to ask for it, and they'll usually do it. So another way to look at some of these energy projects, if you're thinking about it, you're like, man, think about it. I don't know. Maybe it's for me, maybe it's not. My business seems to be running pretty good right now. Why would I want to spend money on doing one of these incentive projects? So this is the Hilton in Burnaby, in Metrotown. So they did a lighting retrofit a few years ago. And when we ran the numbers on how much they save in energy, it equaled almost 12,000 room bookings a year. So those are room bookings that they did not have to fulfill. So they didn't have to clean those rooms. They didn't have to service those people. They didn't have to pay tax on that money because that was just savings. That's money they didn't spend, which is pretty awesome. This was Earl's in Whistler. The money they saved, they did a full LED retrofit here. They used to have those, they're called MR16s, but they're those little tiny lights that run on the wires and they get super hot. Those use 50 watts each. So they went to a 6-watt unit, and they did a bunch of other integrated lighting and some other stuff. They did their kitchens. And it equals what they save in electricity per year equals about 646 entrees. That they didn't have to buy food, they didn't have to cook, they didn't have to serve, they didn't have to wash dishes. That's just passive income now. Let's think of it as income, but it's money they're not spending. So this was a school in Coquitlam. They did these LED lights. You can see them up in the hallways and stuff. They did the hallways and classrooms. And on energy savings alone, they added $27,000 a year to their maintenance budget. So that money probably got swallowed up into something else, but that's $27,000 a year they're saving. And then this was a few years ago. This project's paid itself off now, so they've probably come out way on top on this. The other thing is the cost to do nothing. The cost to do nothing is more than $27,000 because electricity rates don't go down. They, for some reason, they just never go down. They just keep going up. So that's $27,000. This was a couple years ago. It's probably more than that now. This was this is a swimming pool in North Vancouver with the Karen Magnuson wave pool. They did a lighting retrofit. It's actually way cooler in there. It looked pretty dingy and gross before, and you didn't really notice until you saw the new lighting, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. So they had those 400-watt metal halides, and they started to deteriorate in lighting quality. So what they also tend to do, those big metal halide fixtures, they start out really good when you first install them, and then the lighting quality and the light output declines rapidly over time. So it was really dingy in there. So even though the light bulb still looked lit, it wasn't doing very well. So yeah, anyway, their savings annually equals 16,000 drop-in swimmers. So that's a big number because drop-in swim there is like $3. But so yeah, they're saving tons of cash though, just on operating this. And it actually made the swimming pool look newer for some reason. It's not so dingy anymore. It's pretty neat. I've been there. Oh, yeah. So I rammed through that really quickly. I can show you now. Hold on. Let's see if I can show you. Let's see if this works. Yeah, share this one. So this is the bchydro.com, right? So if you go up here to bchydro.com/semhub, so this is the Strategic Energy Management Hub. This is where you log in for all your business stuff. This isn't where you log in to look at your home energy stuff. That's a totally different website that's within bchydro.com. This is for commercial customers and industrial customers only. So it's bchydro.com/semhub. Here I'm pretending to be Yolanda because she's the tech person that set up this test account for me. If you have logged in here before, you can just log right in. If you haven't logged in here before, you got to go down here and put your business account number in. If you have more than one business account number, just put one of them in. It'll link them all together on the back end. And then you're not in New West, so don't worry about that. And then you click next, and then there's a whole setup process. But I already logged in as Yolanda, so I'm going to show you the what it looks like once you get in. Ah, here we go. So this is like a test project. So, oh, nope, it's gonna make me log in again. Yolanda. Here we go. See if my internet works. And it works. So this is Coast Hotels, but it's not really. It's fake. You can go down here into projects. Nope. Nope. It's gonna be weird. We're gonna go to site, and then we're gonna do it this way. This one. Oh man, this is not working out well for me. Like I told you before, BC Hydro is not very savvy. See if this works again. Why is it doing this? Oh, new buttons. What does that do? Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Never saw that before. There. Nope. It's gonna do it to me again. Okay, so it says I have no projects. So I'm gonna go over here. We're gonna start a project. It's gonna be a new incentive application. So it pre-populates the contact information. No, I gotta put that from Canada or something like that. Yeah, I'm from Canada. You got to be from BC, otherwise. Well, there's some companies that their head office is in different places, and that's what that's about. You can put your GST number in here if you need to, but I don't have one. This is the part where the vendor. So your installer, all of our installers, most of the electrical contractors in BC have a relationship already with BC Hydro. They've registered themselves. They've gone through a bunch of training. They know how all this works, so they'll do it for you. And we have allocated them a like a number, a 4-digit number. So I don't have a 4-digit number, but another way you can do it is like if you're just going to screw some stuff in and you don't need a contractor, they'll say this is Jimmy John. He's going to put in his own things in his pizza place. Let me go next. You can also put in the distributor there. So the distributor will also have a 4-digit ID. This is required to get the money. So if your installer buys the products from Brightlight or Commercial Lighting Products or Nedco or any of those places, he'll get a 4-digit number from that place that he bought them, and he'll be able to put that number, or she'll be able to put that number in there. And that's required to get payment. That's to ensure that you're buying the commercial grade products and you're not getting the residential grade products. That's one of the requirements. If that doesn't, if you try and skirt the system and save a couple bucks and buy them on Amazon, you're going to pay lots of ways. The products aren't going to be very good. They're not going to perform very well, and it disqualifies you from getting the incentive. So let's add a facility here. We're gonna pretend that that's where we're gonna do it. No, let's choose a set facility type. What's a good facility type? Anybody? Convenience store? Warehouse? Let's do warehouse. Everyone knows what a warehouse looks like. Yeah. So then this is the part that you really want the vendor to do for you. So we say, what's our existing lighting? Well, we talked about HID lighting, so we'll say we had HID lighting in there. We had metal halides, and they were 400 watts, right? And then this is, what are we going to put in there? And we're going to put in LED. We're going to put in LED. So this is one of the other requirements that the vendor needs to really help you out with, because it gets super technical. The LED product that you need to replace it with has to be a minimum of 19,000 lumens. Lumens is the light output unit. So, and it has to be less than 350 watts. So there has to be some energy savings there. We're going to say that it's a warehouse. We're going to say the operating hours are actually 4,300. Oh, won't let me change. Won't let me change that. Not allowed to type. Weird. There we go. There we are. And it's because we run long hours. Lighting controls, no. We're just going to do this. Oh, we got to say where it is. Warehouse. And then, oh, how many are we going to put in? Are we going to put in one? Let's put in one. There we go. So there's our configuration. We're going to put in one of these lights that we just talked about. So what's our incentive going to be? Well, how much is it going to cost us? It's going to cost us 500 bucks for the light, and it'll probably cost us another 200 bucks to have it installed. So we're going to say $700. You can calculate the incentive. Oh, look at that. It's 200 bucks. 200 bucks. The price went up since I made the presentation. So if you, this is exactly what we just did here. So if you, we're going to change one of, it's not worth it to do one, but it's worth it to do 9 or 10, right? If you change one of those, Pizza Hut will give you $200 as an incentive. That's because there's a 20% bonus offer, and also, oh, their estimated savings are higher than I originally calculated by 100 kilowatt hours. That's where the incentive's coming out. Then if you, let's say you're like, oh, I don't have $700. I can't afford that. There's a financing option. So this connects you with a financing organization that can help you finance that lighting project, and they kind of work it in a way that your payments to the lighting project are around equal to the energy savings on your bill. So the amount, like the sort of bulk amount that you pay for electricity will continue for the time of the payment schedule of the financing. But you don't have to come up with that initial capital expenditure. So that's a great option for people. I think it goes to a place called Atticus Financial. I don't think they're in the room. Sometimes they come to these. But that helps you out with the financing thing. And in both with the financer person company and with BC Hydro, what we're doing and how this works for everybody is we're betting that your business will stay in business and continue to operate for at least 8 or 9 years. That's what we're counting on. So this 1,105 kilowatt hours, yeah, you get $200 for that. Cool. But in savings for me over 10 years, I'm gonna save like $1,000 probably, and that's where the energy savings comes from. I'll give you a lot of money up front, but I'm gonna collect those savings from you for many years, and so it's in my best interest, and it's in this finance guy's best interest, and it's in your best interest that you continue to operate as efficiently as possible for a long period of time. The longer you stay in business, the better it is for everybody. And that's kind of how the process works. It's not very fun. It's not very intuitive. It's kind of technical. I would recommend the first call you make is to a contractor that maybe specializes in lighting products or is familiar with the program and the process, and they will do all this for you. So all you got to do is choose what you want. Say, I want to save energy. I want to get incentives from BC Hydro, and I want to make my business operate more efficiently. And then it's possible that you can get all that to happen with no out of pocket expenses at first. Like, so you would seem like your bill stays the same for 5 years, but you're actually getting all the stuff. It sounds too good to be true, and you know what? It might be. This program's been around for about 10 years. It's done very well for BC Hydro, but I'm not a Scientologist. I don't know what the future holds. So maybe, yeah, it's going to be around for the next 2 years at least. I know that. But the market is changing, especially since the COVID shutdown. A lot of businesses either curtailed, a lot of industrial businesses, so like mining operations and forestry operations, they saw reduced demand for their products. So they curtailed a lot of their outputs. And they are, industrial process is about 50% of BC Hydro's load. So when a couple of mining and forestry companies go down, take 3 months off or something like that creates a huge excess of energy. And so there's currently not a desire for a lot of these projects, but because we're in market and we're moving forward, these things are going to continue. So unless there's a really good bounce back after this year, and I would say probably 2023, 2024, BC Hydro is probably going to reevaluate this sort of approach. So I would say get on it sooner rather than later. Also, the sooner you do it, the more energy you can save. Yeah. So that's, I think, do we have any questions? I had no questions. Everyone's muted.
Oh, hi, Ben. Can
Oh,
you hear me?
yes, there it is.
Sorry, I might be in a bit of a noisy place here, but I'll just try to get a question in quickly. Does BC Hydro have any? You've given us some great examples with lighting. Um, is there any sort of practical technologies that are available to commercial or smaller industrial users that will help them actually identify what their major energy consumption uh, is made up of? You know, like and will allow them to say target where they would be making some kind of improvements like this apart from lighting. I mean, a personal example, say my home, right? I have I know what my major appliances are, and I can kind of guess which ones are most likely consuming the most amount of electricity, but I really don't know that accurately enough to be able to take either actual technical measures or just behavioral changes that would allow me to save energy. You understand what I
Yes,
mean?
I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
I understand what you're talking about. And so, in a normal situation, if you'd asked me this question in January, I would visit your business, or I would have someone visit your business and do sort of a light audit of your process and look for these opportunities. Having been into hundreds of businesses and done this hundreds of times, there's a few key things to look for. So, uh, and it really depends on what your business is. So you go to a butcher shop, you're like, okay, cool. Lighting retrofit might help me save energy, but that's like 5% of my load because I have 7 walk-in coolers that are running 24 hours a day and we're in and out of them all the time. So for them, it's a refrigeration load. So it's to look for ways to sort of reduce that refrigeration load or increase the efficiency of the refrigeration units. There's a box making place in Richmond, and it's like, cool, yeah, lighting, we need lighting, so we're going to do that because it's going to improve the workspace. And it's nice to know that we'll save some energy and we'll get some money. Awesome. But again, 80% of their electricity load is in box making machines that run. And if the box making machine doesn't run, they're not making any money, so they don't need the lights. So there's this balance you got to make. There's also heating and ventilation components to the program. And I typically don't talk about those in a presentation form because they're very complicated, for one, and they're very expensive. So I think there was the mall, Willowbrook Mall, that's in Langley. So we did a pilot with them where they have something like 47 rooftop air handling units in that mall. And so we did a program where we like, can we get any energy savings through maintenance? And we did coil cleaning and filters and all sorts of stuff, and they got maintained at an advanced maintenance schedule instead of just when it needed repair. And we found huge savings there, and because the load went down, they were able to handle air more efficiently, and they some of them were even cycling on and off because they didn't need to work as hard once they were properly maintained. And then there's other things with HVAC. You can add an economizer. Economizer, what it does is it takes the warm air that you're exhausting out, and it sort of passes it through a air-to-air heat exchanger with the cold air that's coming in from outside, especially in the wintertime. So it works in the wintertime as it pre-warms the outside air as it comes in, so it doesn't have to get as much gas or electric heat applied to it to meet its target temperature before it enters into this unit. And in the summertime, if you have air conditioned space, it actually cools the incoming air. So it makes it more efficient that way. But those are expensive modifications that only really make sense if you're doing work already. So if you're already going to upgrade a unit, or if you're going to repair a unit, then it makes sense to add some of these things, and there's incentives available for that. But on its own, like for Willowbrook, they're like, yeah, we want to install heat pumps to all of our units. That's going to be almost $1 million. And so you're not going to make that back in energy savings. But they can put a policy in place that says, hey, when the air handling unit breaks, instead of replacing it with an exact replica, let's replace it with a heat pump unit. So then that difference is, it's only a couple $100 difference or $1,000 difference, but then it makes more savings because you've already sunk that cost in. We have to replace this anyway. We have to get rid of this old one. So to do that, Kent, what's your business that you want to? I can give you some right now real time advice. No.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I
Lost.
work in an office as a business advisor on a business brokerage, but I have worked in investment in energy efficiency before, and so I'm quite interested in this sector because I would like, we do have clients who have manufacturing type businesses, like you say, with refrigeration, with pumps, with stuff that's probably using a lot more electricity than their lighting is. And so I would like to be able to say to them, here's something you should look at because you could get some substantial savings here. For example, say a cheese manufacturing company or something like that. But would be an example of somebody who could probably benefit from your program. But I guess what I'm hearing, Ben, is for those kind of things, it's really a case by case thing. It's not, here's something you can plug into your electrical panel and it'll analyze your power loads and it'll tell you what you should be doing. You really need to bring in someone like yourself to look at it and say, here's the best bang for the buck type of thing.
BC Hydro does have, so it has 5-minute interval metering with the smart meter sort of stuff. And you can, through bchydro.com, you can access that smart meter data. I can't look it up for you. I don't have access to that. No one, it's all coded numbers on my end. So it doesn't.
So that would be any BC Hydro customer, commercial, and anybody who's got a BC Hydro account can look that up and they can see what their power consumption pattern is. Is it able to in some way split that down into different loads?
No, but what you can do is you can look at different times of the day, and you can look and see when power spikes happen and when power drops happen. You can see your base load over the nighttime when you're not operating and say, hey, I'm still using this much energy all night long. Is there some equipment that's in standby mode that can be shut down? Is there some equipment that is left on? Is there some equipment that's malfunctioning during that time? Or then there's other times in the day you'll see a spike and it's like, oh yeah, that's when the air compressor comes on, or that's when we were using this super robot machine or something like that. That's when the automatic water pumps came on. And then you can
that makes sense. But it sounds like the best thing to do if they're big enough is to call in yourselves, I guess, and have a proper analysis done.
So normally I would come and do that with you, but I can't. I'm not allowed to go to your job site anymore. So now I'm stuck here in my basement.
Right. Okay, got it. Anyway, thanks a lot. Yeah.
See someone that operates commercial greenhouses. My experience with commercial greenhouses is that ventilation becomes a huge cost on the electricity load. The lighting technology, some people are doing LED lighting, some people are doing plasma lighting, some people are doing high pressure sodium for flowering products. If you're growing green peppers or something, you don't really need additional lighting sources. If you're growing cannabis, you do need a lot of lighting sources. And my last name is Gardner, but I'm not an indoor gardener. So that's something that's industry specific, and you have to make a lot of decisions. But there are efficient ways to operate ventilation equipment, and there are these lighting projects would also apply to any outdoor lighting that is not business cycle specific. So instead of messing with the lighting that runs your flower business, what about lightings on the outside of the building? What about lighting in the office? What about the ventilation system in the other buildings? So there's still opportunity. It's not limited to the business process, but there are things there. Oh, what else we got here? We have more in here. Okay, well, that's a big question. Nope, that was just me looking for a phone number. Oh, the lighting equivalency requirement. So yes. So the lighting equivalency requirement is part of the auditor's specifications on how you can get money from BC Hydro. So the 19,000 lumens for a 400 watt metal halide. A lot of times what we see is someone has a 400 watt metal halide that's been installed for 10 years, 20 years, whatever. The lighting output is diminished so much that it's actually quite dim. It's still consuming 400 watts, but it's not at 19,000 lumens. Then they put these LEDs in, and all of a sudden it's way too bright. They're not used to it. The thing is that's the system as it was designed, and it needs to be a direct one-to-one replacement. If it's a redesign, if you're taking down the 400 watt and you're putting up something that's not as bright, or you're putting up a totally different other sort of configuration, or you're moving things around, that's a redesign. And so you're not doing it for energy efficient reasons. You're doing it for lighting quality and lighting like practicality reasons. And so the auditor has decided that that's not an energy efficiency project. That's a renovation project, and that's different. So that's what makes it different when, and that's why the requirement of the one-to-one sort of switch happens. All right, bye, Ken. Ken had to go. Where switching over is not generated. Has there been a time when switching over has not generated economically wise, or the return on investment is too long or too low? Yes. So one of those configurations that maybe doesn't make the most sense is, well, there's ways around it. So if you have an office with a bunch of fluorescent lighting in it, maybe fluorescent lighting comes in different sizes. So T12 is like the big fat tubes from the 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever. They don't make those anymore. They're too energy inefficient. They're terrible. They're not good. So they don't manufacture those anymore. There's still a lot left in the marketplace. You can buy replacement parts if you need to. Then in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, they went to T8. So T8 is it's 0.8 of an inch or something like that. It's the narrower one, so it's better performing. So if you had those, if you had T8 and you wanted to go to an LED fluorescent product, that switch there, you're going to get improved lighting quality. You're going to get improved lighting life, right? And it'll be maintenance free for many years. But the cost to do that work and the cost for those products don't really measure up to the energy savings alone. And because the energy savings aren't big, like like T8s use this much and LEDs use this much, like that's not a big gap to make up. Then the incentive is actually quite low, because the incentive is based on the energy savings. So that has to be a project that you're really doing for other drivers as well. But the way around it is, you got an office with a bunch of fluorescent lights in it, but then on the outside of the building, you have some outdoor security lighting that's HID, or you have a warehouse in the back or something else like that. You have a light up in your parking lot if you have one of those that you pay for. If you add just one of those to that configuration, your project cost doesn't go up that much. Your project cost only goes up a little bit, but the incentive now adds in the savings from that other configuration, and your incentive then increases. So it's like, while you have the professionals there doing the work, get them to do a few high value projects, and it buys down the project as a whole. You could just do if you called in a contractor to change say you had those wall packs on the outside of your lights, those big box ones that blast orange light out. If you had a contractor come and change out 2 or 3 of those with an LED product, that's going to cost you product plus installation. And then if you got them to do some fluorescent lighting inside as well at the same time, it's not another product and installation. It's sort of like you pay for both products, and then the installation kind of binds together and gets a little smaller. Installation is often big part of the cost on some of these projects. But making your project cheaper also, this is a pro tip that I probably shouldn't tell you, but if your project is too cheap and the payback is too good, you don't get an incentive, or the incentive gets reduced. So there's caps on the market on the project. in the program. So if it's more than 70% of the project cost, if you spend $10,000 on a project, and your incentive will get capped at 7,000. So it's 70% of the project cost. So if your project cost goes up, your incentive goes up. And also if there's a 1-year payback. So if your project will pay itself off in energy savings in a year, you don't need an incentive. That's something you should be doing anyway. Ooh, oh, just fell over. All right. Any more questions? No? It's lunchtime? All right. Well, I don't have any contact with the Greater Langley Chamber of Commerce people, so I think maybe we can just end it there. Thanks for coming out. I think my email is not here. Here, I'll type it in this message to everybody, and then anybody that wants to reach out to me can hit me up if you have more detailed questions or you want some more clarification on anything. I'm always open. I'm not going anywhere. Oh, that's not wrong. Yeah, I'm just locked here in my basement answering questions and talking to people about energy efficiency. Living the dream.
All right. Well, thanks, Ben. That was a really interesting presentation. Okay.
Thanks, Kat.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.